Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to the F&F podcast, and I'm here with F&F Chief Editor, Avellina Balestri. Avellina!
Welcome, one and all, to the podcast of your dreams and your wildest fantasies. Now.
You just don't know it's a nightmare yet, but...
We don't, yeah.
We will soon enlighten you.
We will provide you with the nightmare fodder you've always dreamed of.
Yes.
Or what you will hope to dream. This is the nightmare fodder that you will dream of. You will always have wanted to dream of.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Yes.
Sort of past to present to future. We're outside of time and space, in the realm of dreams. Although he dies in book 2, technically, but yes, he's featured quite a bit.
Sorry, you don't know what happens to Frasier.
Oh,
you don't. It's a mystery. Don't look it up. And wait till book 2 to find out. Does he live or die? What happens at the Battle of Saratoga? Who will win? The American Revolution.
What?
So anyway, Frasier dies. Sorry, spoiler alert. Apparently.
Bye.
and so the main character sniper, who we spent the book thinking was going to snipe Frasier, who in fact did not.
No, they led up to it.
Yeah,
they literally led up to it, and then just didn't happen.
He was the best, but they didn't choose him
for some reason.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been through a lot of these books. So, I mean,
the rebel Betsy Ross.
Oh my gosh, the hero America needs. Because she's twice a war widow.
Twice a war widow.
I think we've been actually emotionally damaged by these.
That was just a comment that Avellina got on a post one time. Please, won't you write a screenplay on Betsy Ross? Because Lord. She's the hero America needs.
Oh, Lord.
She was twice a war widow. Twice a war widow.
Oh my God. Right now, we're just getting all this stuff off of our chat for the intro.
This is the welcome to our duress podcast, where it's essentially an artist taking cans of paint and splattering them against a canvas. So you've walked in on that. Congratulations.
So we are here today to discuss historical fiction. Yes. What makes it tick? What makes it work?
What makes it absolutely miserable? And,
that too.
What can possibly save it?
That will take up the majority of the conversation. Yeah. Maybe what we should start with is a very key word: research. And maybe we should actually discuss why that word has a sort of ironic connotation to us.
Yes. So as it turns out, what Avellina and I think research entails, and what the general populace believes research entails, are not synonymous. And we're also going to confront what on earth the historical record is, because I don't know, and I didn't realize I didn't know until just recently. I'm realizing I don't know anything. I don't know what research is. I don't know what the historical record is. I don't even know how it is I'm writing historical fiction, because I'm not convinced it's an actual thing.
Well, I mean, really, I'm fascinated by the way in which words like research, the historical record, or, contemporary documents, or all kinds of terms like this get flung around by people who do engage in like historical fiction writing very, very easily, but they don't mean what we mean by it. They're using words, but but they really don't have the same meaning. And we've asked ourselves many times, well, how could these people be doing what they say that they're doing, and coming up with these these conclusions.
Right.
So maybe like we should volunteer the example of one one. Well, I guess it's a series. I only read 2 from the series and then stopped because I was going to have like a brain hemorrhage, which was dealing with basically spy chicks in the American Revolution. This is a very popular topic. We've observed that American Revolution fiction tends to lean towards snipers and spies.
Yep.
That seems like everything almost. It's like, you know, snipers for the dudes and spies for the chicks somehow, and then that's, you know, the way that this cookie has been crumbling.
Yeah, and we fairly determined to write a parody novel. That's just that.
Yes.
Yeah.
the sniper and the spy run off together.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, so this one author, she essentially created a number of books in a series involving these sort of, you know, strong, independent women who spy. So I'm trying to figure out how to give a simple synopsis of these without, you know, going into the weeds.
It blasted Avellina's brain cells.
They did. Well, okay.
Killed her Kindle.
They did burn my Kindle, yes. They burned my Kindle. My Kindle actually currently does not work due to the sheer amount of negative literature that I have inflicted upon it. All those negative vibes just, you know, limited its lifespan, apparently. So the one book featured General John Burgoyne on a ship in New York Harbor.
I just remembered what book this is. I'm sorry.
Oh, look, do you remember this one?
Wait, maybe I didn't. Sorry, you said Burgoyne on a ship, and I just thought it was the bust one.
And he wants to have a fling.
Oh, it is the Burgoyne bust book. Okay, great. Continue.
Yes.
Continue. I forgot about this.
So he wants to have a fling with this actress who he has sent his like half Mohawk bodyguard out to find. And he's being unconscionably mean to his half Mohawk bodyguard.
I just want to cut in and clarify. This is the Mohawk Indian tribe, not the hairstyle. Not the hairstyle. His hair is not half a Mohawk.
No, it is not half a Mohawk, thankfully. So he's oh yeah, it says it, yeah. He's half British, half Mohawk. And he's plugged into Burgoyne to be his security guard. And Burgoyne is being just rude to him for unclear reasons. You know, just because Burgoyne is set up to be the baddie in this story, so he has to be, like, terrible to his staff. Which, by the way, Burgoyne was not. The real Burgoyne. Historical Burgoyne was beloved by his staff. He was considered to be a very paternalistic staff boss. But in this universe, Burgoyne is awful to his staff. He's just really miserable. So he sends half Mohawk man on a quest to find a hot chick for him to chill with on his, you know, ship of dreams. So that's what leads Mohawk gentleman off to the theater, where he runs into this hot chick, who, you know, he's going to bring back to Burgoyne with the understanding that she could, like, pitch herself to him to get her theater career up and running. And to try to sell him some of her plays or something like that. So some kind of Me Too operation is going on here. So then he kind of decides, well, this is a shame to waste her on Burgoyne because she's hot. So he actually wants to make a pitch on her, and they start smooching backstage or something. But then she's like, "No, you're no good to me. You don't, like, have all these connections. I want to Me Too pitch myself to someone who's, like, of a higher brand than you.
Marry for love. Ew, I want to marry for status."
Exactly.
It's much more strong and independent, by the way, to do that. Yeah.
Definitely, because she knows what she wants. So she ends up on the ship of dreams with Burgoyne, who sort of puts up with her rattling about her career opportunities for about 5 minutes and then wants to totes make out. And so she decides completely unexplainedly she does not want to make out with him, actually, it turns out. He repulses her. And this is another thing that doesn't make sense. Burgoyne was supposed to be hot, but he repulses her somehow. He just does. One look at him, and women, like, literally shrivel up and die, apparently.
It's his magnetism. They both had magnetic personalities. Unfortunately, they were both the same end of the magnet.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, they were both plus.
They were repellent magnets.
Yep.
So Mr. Magnetism himself does not like this one bit. He's like, look, I had to put up with you whining about your theater career being like in this wretched colonial dump for all of 5 minutes. And that really annoyed me. So like we should totally be making out now. And I'm annoyed that we're not. So he tries to press the issue, and with a strength of arm that seems a little hard to believe, she manages to pick up a bust. I don't even know what the bust is of, which is another whole question. I was just like, what is he doing with a bust?
I imagined this whole time it was just of him.
Maybe so. That's actually believable. I mean, Burgoyne was nothing if not a little bit of an egomaniac. So he gets clobbered one, and gets knocked out and is bleeding all over, and then his security guard comes in, and the security guard who's supposed to be protecting him. Well, he doesn't seem to care whatsoever that his boss has been hit in the head and that he let this happen or anything like that. It's sort of compromised his security job career. Doesn't matter right now because he's decided she's hot. So he does not check on his boss. He does not attempt to staunch the bleeding or anything like that. He just takes her and leaves the ship, and they end up back in NYC, and they are gonna have some hot times because she's decided he's hotter than Burgoyne somehow within the course of minutes. So she totes wants to have all at it. But he has decided that he has forgotten something very important. So he just realizes all of a sudden, oh, snap! I left my condoms on the ship. So he's decided we need to go back on the ship where my boss is unconscious and bleeding in order to find my condom kit. Because that's important right now.
I'm sure he won't get arrested when he goes back.
Oh, yeah, no, apparently not. Not at all. He's not concerned about that plausibility in the least.
I mean, it seems totally off the wall, that thought.
It does, yeah. I don't know why he ever would be implicated in, the fact that his boss got hit in the head and he's found with, the woman who was last seen with him before he got hit in the head. Mm-hmm. But, no, none of this would come to mind in this case, no. So while he's, ransacking through cupboards and stuff, she takes the opportunity to steal some info because she is a spy.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so she, it's a bit of a problem for him and his future career, which, I mean, has already had a dent put in it. Yes, I said that.
Like his boss's head?
Indeed. A skull deep dent. So he is busy condom hunting while she is busy collecting little bits of clandestine paperwork. And all of this ultimately works its way around to the fact that her aunt is this spy mistress superwoman who is dying slowly of venereal disease.
Guess it runs in the family.
So she doesn't care about her life at this point.
Wait, was the real moral of this story just about not having unprotected sex because you could get venereal disease and die?
Apparently it was. Well, apparently it was because, you see, they then go on, they have a paragraph somewhere down the line that, Burgoyne is the real villain because he likes sex au naturel and doesn't like going on.
Kill me off. I'm done. Ladies and gentlemen, marriage before sex as God intended.
Yes, this is exactly. Program
Saves
approved.
all of these problems. You will never get a bust smashed over your head. You will never die slowly of a venereal disease.
Yeah, exactly. You just, you know,
100% fine.
Be monogamous, be committed. Don't
Faith
do
and
these
fidelity. Love.
Exactly. This is we approve this message.
All you need now is not courage. It is it's goodness, faithfulness, the fruit of the Holy Spirit, baby.
Yes, the fruit of the Holy Spirit, exactly. Let's get into the Pentecost spirit here. Yes, exactly. So chastity and good Lord. So she has decided, you know, via her aunt, that, you know, the great virtue in the world is protected sex with whomever you want, whenever you want, whilst you're spying on that guy, using this guy to get you information to somehow aid this cause that you've decided you're now a part of, simply because you felt like Burgoyne did not listen to you well enough when you were pitching your plays. So you've decided that the revolutionary cause will somehow be more feminist and listen to your play productions better, and that's why you should support them. Strange reason to change sides, but okay. I mean, that's what we're going with, sir. So that's the thing that's happening. She gets her, like, would be boyfriend captured. And he, you know, requests that she release him, and she says no, because, you know, he would, you know, probably reveal on her. So their relationship is clearly built on trust. And so then she has her patriot bros dump him in, like, a cistern.
This is still the guy with the mohawk, right?
This is very much the guy with the mohawk, the internal mohawk. It's the mohawk he wears inside himself. Yeah, he gets bailed out by some cousins he conveniently happens to have. So some convenient cousins bail him out. And he is mad at the entire British establishment. I mean, that's this has become the focus of his wrath, instead of, you know, his ex, who got him captured and dumped in the cistern. That's not the object of his wrath. He still is pining over her. The object of his wrath is the British, like, aristocracy, because he feels like they didn't do enough to get him out of his, you know, dungeon-like conditions. And so, therefore, he's decided to change sides. Yeah, and then he starts this, like, letter correspondence with hot chick who dumped him in the cistern, but he's okay with her now. It's all okay. Everything's fine. And she's out in Philly spying on the British elite. Then a very important character enters the equation, one near and dear to our hearts. Evil Andre. So basically, evil John André comes to the house, and he's, like, being all evil and aristocratic, even though he's not aristocratic. André was middle class. His family was in the mercantile business, but for all practical purposes, he is an evil aristo.
Yeah. So
vibe.
Just really
character.
Quick for everybody out there. Most, you know, mohawk guy, theater chick, ant lady. These are fictional characters.
They are.
But
fictional,
Burgoyne,
yes.
General Burgoyne, and is he captain or major at this point?
I think he's captain looking for a promotion to major.
And captain looking for a promotion. Jean André is those two are historical figures. So Avellina is very well versed in the lives of both of them, and will now continue complaining about the show of them in this novel.
Character assassination.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So our real boy shows up in a very unreal way, and he's acting very not like himself. But, you know, in this universe, Andre has, like, a malignant vibe. Basically, he is a malevolent figure who is consumed by his own ambitions at the cost of his humanity.
Right.
He is also super gay. But, I mean, we mean super, super, super gay. And to the point he is so stereotyped, and I mean this in the most negatively stereotypes for gay people you could get. Level gay.
Yeah, he put in his request to join the SA, and they told him that it was the wrong century, and they were sorry, but no.
There we go. Yes, no, he is allergic to women. He's allergic to them. They make him break out in hives. He's so gay. Because, as we know, all gay people do break out in hives when they're around women, apparently, according to this author. Anyway, so he's having, women allergic problems, but he has to hang out with them because he's spying on them. It's for work. So his ambitions are forcing him to keep company with the women that make him have hyperventilation fits. But he's doing it because he's so driven because work. So that's a thing that's happening. Okay, so fact check. Real André was not like this at all. Yes, I think that there's definitely good reason to suspect he was what nowadays would kind of be called bi, in the sense that he appreciated the beauties of both females and males. But it is not at all true that he was allergic to women. He loved the company of women, was always having a kind of a bevy of female friends and companions and lovers in various different sections of his life. He was known to be a very, very upbeat and friendly and gregarious person, very, very artistic, very high-spirited, very much the party animal. And more to his credit beyond all that, he was known to be a basically decent person in terms of the way he treated people. He was known to be a kind and compassionate and generous person. All of this does not exist in this other universe. He is simply the truncated, negative gay stereotype, concocted by this author's mind for her own purposes, because she decided she needed another villain character. So she went in that direction. Anyway, all that having been said, evil André shows up and tells our Mohawk friend that they need to join forces to be on a mission to take down this lady spy chick out in Philly. So they head off together, but at this point, Mohawk Man has decided he'll sacrifice it all to save Philly chick. So they end up on this little quest for the rest of the book to take her down. Ultimately, evil André discovers that, her aunt is part of the whole super spy ring situation. And he breaks in dramatically with his, Gestapo, apparently, to take her away. But hey, too late. She's taken poison. Whoopsie. So she's no longer with us. R.I.P. So then, So he eventually decides that hot chick is in fact part of the spy ring. And he has her hauled off to General Howe. And General Howe says to André, okay, one of the lines that genuinely amused me was that, well, look, I think she was Burgoyne's mistress at one point. And since I'm not, going out to reinforce Burgoyne and go out to meet him during his Saratoga campaign, I've decided not to do that. Well, then I don't want to hang his mistress, too. It might seem personal.
Unlike burning General Schuyler's house.
Exactly. That was not personal at all. That was very not personal. That was the least personal thing.
It was. Ever. It was very well. It was very well taken, very well executed, and very well understood.
It was. It was beautiful. Anyway, so then what ends up happening is that Howe decides we're going to send hot chick out to Burgoyne, and let him decide what to do with her, because I don't want to be responsible. And evil André has a meltdown in a very not André fashion about how he wants her hanged now. I want her hanged now. For some reason.
That is really strange and out of character.
It was very out of character. That's what I thought. I'm just like, what? Why?
Because André hates hanging. He hates executing people. He hates really keeping people in prison in general, it seeems like.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, it's like, look, it was one of these things where it's like, sure, André had to do tough stuff as part of his job.
Sure.
But it seemed like he genuinely tried to be generous when possible.
Yeah.
He was, by spirit, he was a generous person.
He was a very mercy-oriented kind of guy, it seems.
Yeah. He tried to be humane when he could. And there's no indication whatsoever he ever indulged in some kind of bizarre glee towards executions. Yeah. Even if, obviously, given his position, executions went down at different points. But that's certainly not some kind of like, hang them now, hang them now. And I think the only reason that the author did that is simply because André got hanged and she's trying to make it justified. So it's really just kind of like, we want to show that he's got some kind of like bizarre like hanging obsession.
But André's whole death was such a brilliant sort of drama play. I think it's almost detrimental to the story to switch it up like this.
Well, I think so too, because the thing is that there's honestly so many elements of André's death and the story that leads up to it that kind of, I think, actually have quite a few moral implications that are they almost touch kind of universal chords in different ways. Yeah. So when you see these books doing this kind of nonsense, it's just like, well, why do you feel the need to have to, again, character assassinate someone? Especially someone, I find it very poor form when you have someone who dies, violently young. And could have been spared, but wasn't, essentially because of vendetta, and trying to make an example. So, it should be something that you'd think authors would at least have enough sense to respect the dead, especially someone who died under such tragic circumstances.
As long as we don't humanize the guards.
There we go. Mm-hmm. You want to give context to that phrase? Oh,
yeah, my apologies. Wonderful story. I listened to the on audiobook the memoirs of Sigismund Payne Best, who was a British Secret Service agent who spent the entirety of World War II, from technically before it began until the very end of it, in a concentration camp, mostly Sachsenhausen. And he wrote memoirs after the war of the time that he spent in the prison camps and everything that happened to him throughout the war. And so naturally, a large part of his life during this period was his interactions with the prison guards. So what happened, but I went on Goodreads after listening to this. It's called The Venlo Incident. It's really quite enlightening. And I went on Goodreads after this, and I was looking at the reviews on Goodreads, and I think the book had 3-star rating overall, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'll look at the reviews, and half of the reviews said, oh, essentially, I'm doing this for historical research, like I was, and, this is very helpful. And the other half of the reviews were 1-star reviews, and they all said things like, this is the worst spy novel I've ever read. And this is terrible. I can't believe how he's humanizing the guards. Real Nazi guards wouldn't have acted like this, and obviously he didn't do enough research on concentration camps and everything else.
and it just goes to show people's perceptions, they're just like jaded. Oh gosh.
They really seemed to just genuinely not realize that like this had actually these were memoirs and this like actually happened. But they seemed to think it was just like some weird novel like hot take somebody had, and I'm just like, wow. Number one, the guy who said this is the worst spy novel ever was probably right. If you write a spy novel and get your guy arrested on his first mission in the first chapter and keep him in the war for the next, 8 years, you're doing a bad job. But
oh my gosh. Again, I feel like though people like I feel like spy novels in a way have ruined people's ability to appreciate what actually espionage work is.
Yeah, which is not nearly as fun, really.
No, exactly. It's not as much action adventure as a lot of stretches of nothing, quite frankly.
It is. It's a lot of tension.
Yes.
So there's a lot of internal sort of stuff that's going on. There's a lot of paranoia that has a tendency to sink in because it's the kind of stress you're under when you know that you're doing something wrong, and you start wondering who else knows what you're doing. And in reality, most of the time nobody knows. But, it's just keeping yourself convinced of that and keeping yourself calm enough to operate that's important. And then there's the other question of, well, who can I trust in this scenario?
Well, because you're expecting everyone to betray, something somewhere.
Right. And so there's so much deception in the business that you start wondering what's real. But, it's not nearly the level of external conflict and excitement that happens in the spy movies.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And I mean, I think that the thing is, when you think about this, the stereotype of James Bond, it's always the kind of action and sex, sex and violence, like that's everything. And people, they get hooked on that kind of drug.
James Bond, written by Ian Fleming, who legitimately worked in British spy work, but rather than being a field agent was a writer for a black propaganda station. So his story was literally making up stuff that was going on.
God, that's hilarious. Yeah, and that's the thing, and we've talked about this in the past, that a lot of people don't understand the different things that go on in intelligence work.
Yeah,
it actually ties into the whole, like, when people call Andre a spy.
Right.
It's not strictly accurate. He was an intelligence officer, yes. But he never was sent, as far as we're aware, on an outright spying mission.
Right.
Certainly not deliberately. The thing that happened with Benedict Arnold was a big, bad mistake. It never was something he was sent out to do. He was never supposed to touch the hot paperwork and bring it back. It was Arnold who was supposed to be carrying the stuff, and then everything went wrong. And then Arnold was just like, I'm out of here, buddy. so that was that. But it wasn't, it wasn't Andre being sent on a spying mission. Possibly the closest thing might have been reconnaissance of a type over ground.
Yeah.
So sort of checking out ground. But even then, I think it was rare that Andre personally was sent on that. I do think that some of that was involved in, like, for example, just even just like asking, for example, what did you see in given places, kind of thing. But it wasn't like, that wasn't his job. This is, I guess, my point. His main job was not, he was not a spy per se. He was an intel officer.
Right.
So his job mainly was to process information coming into him, and to check out other people to see if they were spies. Right. So that was, but I noticed a lot of people call him a spy. They'll say he was the British spy. And I'm like, well, he didn't actually do spy, missions himself. This is sort of a misnomer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a similar problem with people calling Bonhoeffer a spy, because when you get into the kind of work Bonhoeffer was actually doing, he was more of an emissary.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And he was an actual spy. He, sort of had that title on paper, but,
Oh, very much so. And I mean, I think that's exactly the case. I think we've said this in the past with Andre and that whole mission with Arnold. He was sent as an emissary, like, specifically.
Yeah.
So he really wasn't a spy. He only ended up technically on the books as a spy because, well, Arnold. Yeah. But, Arnold is a problem person, and we could do a whole episode on Arnold. But anyway, just to wrap up, the summary of awful book. So evil Andre is throwing a fit because he apparently, like, wants people to get hanged now, even though in real life he was deathly afraid of hangings. So it wouldn't really make sense for him to love to see people get hanged. There's nothing to indicate he did love to see people to get hanged.
I'm just envisioning him under a lady swinging from a tree, just kind of with really big eyes and just like his mouth watering because he finds it so attractive.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. We just decided to make him an outright like weirdo sadist at this point. So, also he thinks that like getting her hanged will make him like super intel man. Like he will
it's for work. That makes sense.
Yeah, there we go. So maybe he's not. Maybe it's not sadism. Maybe it's for work because everything André does is for work. Yeah, fatal ambition. There. So basically, they decide, no, André, we're not going to hang her because maybe she was Burgoyne's mistress, and I don't want it to look personal. Okay, fine. So they wind up sending her and sending Mohawk Man ahead to Burgoyne's camp. So I think they escape, right?
Okay,
At first, there's like a skirmish or something that happens, and then they escape.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
They foolishly decide to split up for some reason because they're being dumb.
There you go.
So Burgoyne ends up capturing Mohawk Man because Burgoyne is now a sadist too, like André. Because this is the thing that's happening now. He's evil.
It's probably contagious.
It is probably contagious. You're right. We're looking at them. They're two party guys. One of them is an actual aristo, and the other is a fake aristo.
You never know what they slip into their drinks at those aristo parties.
Exactly, because clearly, just something starts messing with the brain cells. So there they are. So Burgoyne apparently is still, not too happy about that getting, clonked in the head with a bust. I'm a bit confused, to be honest, why this was never broached earlier. But fine, I guess. Somehow or other, Burgoyne is like, I've been waiting so long to get my hands on you. Because, yeah. So I'm a little confused again how Burgoyne even knew that this guy was in cahoots with the spy entirely. I'm confused. But anyway.
Well, obviously, the guy got busted.
He did get busted. He got very busted. A very busty bust, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
So then Burgoyne, in true Burgoyne fashion, decides to tie him up and dehydrate him in like Indian torture fashion. Which, okay, so again, fact check. Burgoyne was not this guy. He was someone who actually was like, even by his enemies, was called humane and tender.
Right, well, he wrote the book on war crimes, right?
But he basically wrote a what do they call, like an overview list of war crimes to be avoided, essentially, of things to be forbidden on campaigns, that kind of thing. He wrote like a comprehensive, you're not allowed to do X, Y, or Z. And then he also was on tribunals against war crimes that occurred in various parts of the British Empire. So you have like one quite memorable story that involves an atrocity that occurred in India, where some British soldiers, I think affiliate with the East India Company and various things of that nature, had killed some people. It was one of those things where it was like, oh, were these people an uprising, or does it cross over into them just starting to gun people down, essentially? And so basically they killed this one guy in particular who apparently really was just kind of there by accident. Was just kind of, I think they may have attacked a village or something like that in India. I forget all of the details of it, but suffice to say, they ended up shooting Indian civilians. In this sort of retribution move, and Burgoyne was on a tribunal for that, and he essentially has a back and forth with someone being interrogated and tried, and he says, why did you do this? And the guy says, it's because orders. I did it because orders. And Burgoyne says back, no, you should have disobeyed those orders. You had it in your power to disobey.
See,
you should have disobeyed.
It's a little known fact that Burgoyne was actually at the Nuremberg trials.
A Time Lord.
Exactly.
Yes. And so that, this is something that I feel like Burgoyne as a character is very underrated. Like, he gets treated in a very, either he's just remembered for the Saratoga debacle, or he's reduced to being this very kind of frivolous guy who doesn't have any depth. But I mean, having read a lot of his writings at this point, and also things that other people said about him and interaction with him and working with him, he had another whole side to himself that could be quite, thoughtful, cerebral. He had real beliefs. He had, to put it in his words, a consciousness of Christianity. He wasn't a very disciplined Christian in his personal sexual morality by any stretch, and other vices like gambling and drink. But he did have a consciousness of Christianity when it came to things like this. And I mean, he himself said that was what was motivating him to take this line. And he had a whole little speech as he went on with that tribunal, where essentially he said, you're supposed to listen to a higher law. You're not supposed to simply be limiting yourself to this, the command of your officer. Even though commands are important and obedience is important, there's a higher obedience, there's a higher call, there's higher things. And he basically had said that he hoped that if he were in that position, he would have had essentially the gumption in order to listen to the higher law of humanity, and ultimately, like you said, the consciousness of Christianity, which shows where the guy was at with these things, which showed, I mean, he was very conscious of trying to avoid harm to women and children on campaign. He was very conscious of trying to avoid harm to, again, just unarmed civilians in general. I think that this is one of those things that just gets overlooked. And he was also very conscientious in terms of how he was both as a boss and as an officer. He genuinely did try to take care of his men. And his men really loved him for that. And all of this, is just blown away. Well, another short story again, this kind of goes on, but after Bunker Hill, Burgoyne interviews some of the, rebel prisoners who've been taken. And afterwards, he's just kind of like, oh, they seem like okay fellows, just rather, deluded from their rightful authority. I think they should actually be released so that they can get home to harvest their crops in time. And, this is the kind of, like, he had a generous spirit as well, which I feel like it just is totally overlooked, this kind of element of his personality, his character. And there's just total character assassination at this point, that he's the kind of person that would indulge in sadistic torture like this.
Yeah. I know we haven't addressed it on the podcast, Avellina, but I will remind you again, as I have in our personal conversations, that we cannot have complex characters.
No, we cannot. No. We absolutely cannot. No. You can't have characters who, well, that's the thing. I mean, I've run into it a lot of times where, and you have, I'm sure many, many times as well in these stories, where it's like some authors, they will pick up on one or another character, right? Mm-hmm. That they like or they dislike. Yep. And if they like them, they will completely whitewash them. Yep. And they have like no faults or flaws or sins. And then if they don't like them, they will just make them a cartoon villain. Right. And they have no redeeming qualities. Right. And that's what we see like over and over again with these characters, and it's just kind of unfortunate. I feel like these people are not doing, again, the research they claim they're doing. Well, this leads up to it. So basically the end of the story, Burgoyne, evil Burgoyne. I forgot this other bit from the beginning. Oh gosh, I forgot entirely. So Mohawk guy in the beginning, like when Mohawk guy starts to want to hit on hot theater chick, right?
That's a great sentence.
That is, yes. he basically decides a good method of trying to get Burgoyne to keep his hands off would be to blackmail him about his sick wife. This is definitely the method that will work here. So he decides that he's going to tell Burgoyne, hey, your wife, Charlotte, she's like dying practically right now. Well, I will tell her about this if you don't let me have hot chick for myself. They're such a moral group, aren't they? Just delightful people.
Well, I guess that's why Burgoyne's mad at him now then. That's how he has the connection.
At the time he wasn't mad, and he should be. Like, this is the thing. It wasn't indicated that was the reason. It was like...
Maybe it took him a little while to figure out he should be mad.
That does seem like what happened.
I mean, getting blackmailed can take you off guard. Sometimes you need a little bit of time to figure out that it's actually upsetting.
Maybe you called like the hotline or something.
Yeah, exactly. He had to talk it through with his therapist.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, part of the thing was that this was his security guard, and he didn't know that guards were human. So,
he didn't.
He had to get over the shock of that. And then, the guy having a personality and, like, will and desires and stuff. And
he thought that he was like a red shirt from Star Trek.
I mean, isn't that what all guards are, really? It's just...
Yeah, when you get down to it, orcs and red shirts, yeah.
I mean, they're killable, they have no personal lives, they have no personalities, and,
they're all drowning in greed. They're drowning in greed.
Exactly, and when you find one that might have a personality, that might have a character, that might actually be, dare I say, human, it can sometimes be a bit overwhelming, and I think that's what happened to Burgoyne, yeah.
Yeah, he needed to process the whole thing, and by the time he had, years had gone by. So, it was something, but then he remembered, and then he, became a sadistic monster. So, but yeah, so the blackmail Mohawk was just sort of like, if you don't let me, if you don't let me bang her, then I'm going to totally tell your wife that that's happening, or it's your intention or whatever. So, like, this is the part, again, I'm just sort of like, historical accuracy just goes careening off the roller coaster because, truth be told, yes, one of Burgoyne's least admirable qualities was the fact that he cheated on his wife. Mm-hmm. But that having been said, he really did love his wife. This is the great contradiction of his life.
Fluff.
Oh, yes! Fluff. We love the fluff because we have these adorable letters and poems dealing with Johnny and Charlotte, and it's just like, yeah, it's one of these things where I need to read this since we're doing this. So This is a fluff poem from Johnny to his Charlotte. Such does my obstinate repine, and reason's voice reprove. Still think him cold who would combine philosophy with love. Try then from yet a nobler source to draw thy wished relief. Faith adds to reason double force, and mocks the assaults of grief. By her fair hope's enlivening ray, patience and peace are given. Attend her calls, resign, obey, and leave the rest to heaven. The power that formed my Charlotte's heart, thus tender, thus sincere, shall bless each wish that love can start, or absence foster there. Safe in the shadow of the power, I'll tread the hostile ground, and fiery deaths in tempest shower, and thousands fall around. And when the happy hour shall come, O speedy may it be, that brings thy faithful soldier home, to love, content, and thee. Pure may our gratitude ascend to him who guides our days, and whilst he gives with bounteous hand, accepts our bliss for praise. So actually, now that I think about it, that also quite highlights his Christianity.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And, it's really a shame that Charlotte didn't live longer, because I would have loved to put her and Burgoyne in the fluff couple apocalypse book.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I feel like Saratoga qualifies for the apocalypse bit of that.
It does. I think that it was almost merciful that she died before, because that
would have been very hard.
It would have been very hard. She would have worried to death about him, and it would have been because he was the thing is that Burgoyne, I think it's safe to say Burgoyne was an undiagnosed bipolar sufferer.
Yeah.
That's the closest to, I think, what the deal was based on the data that we have.
Yeah.
He seemed to suffer from high and low manias. And so he could be highly energetic, highly charismatic, very, very kind of just starbursts of, enthusiasm all over the place. And then, though, when things happened, he would hit rock bottom, and he would, really, really struggle. He would go into kind of staring at the wall phases, He would get the shakes. He would be unable to hold a pen. He would go into deep, deep, dark depression during grief. And which scared himself. I think he was always like afraid. And we have this in his letters that he admitted he was afraid to show how deeply he felt about certain things because it went really, really, really deep with him. And he was afraid that he'd lose himself to it. So he was fighting depression a lot of the time, it seems, when especially pertaining to certain situations. Like, for example, when Charlotte died, or later on when General Fraser was killed. Things like this really, really shook him. And he would try and do various coping mechanisms, some of them very unhealthy, to try to deal with that. But all of this to say, he loved Charlotte dearly, in spite of the fact that he was sexually all over the place. Because for him, he had this kind of mentality that he was, he might have flings, but they were not emotional to him. He was emotionally monogamous. He loved Charlotte. Yeah. The other stuff was just, it was just play acting almost. It was never the real thing. The real thing was Charlotte all the time, forever.
Yeah, his attitude towards that whole thing reminds me of, and you can cause me to recall who this was. It might have been William of Orange, the latter who said, I'll but it might have been somebody else. I might have just said that, but whoever said I'll have mistresses, but I'll never have another queen.
Oh, okay. So interestingly enough, you're right about William of Orange having that attitude, but that quote actually comes from George II.
There you go, baby. So, English history, Avellina's specialty, not mine. I can talk about one thing, and that's the abdication crisis of 1930, whatever that was.
Well, no, I mean, but you're right though about William of Orange having the same attitude, basically. That he did cheat on his wife, but when she died, he went absolutely to pieces emotionally. So these guys, they were very flawed in their attitude toward marriage, but at the same time, they did love their wives. I mean, there's no question about it. They went into these deep, dark depressions when their wives died. So it can't be fake. I mean, it's not just, there's something that was very deeply going on. It was almost as if they really did treat the sex they were having with these other people as not emotionally connected to them, which is not good. But the same time, it's not good. But at the same time, it's just interesting how they did have this sort of emotional, intense connection to their wives, and when they lost them, they literally found themselves almost on the brink of, again, kind of losing their sanity. Like with William of Orange, he locked himself up in his room for days and wouldn't come out and wouldn't eat. And, he was just totally bereft. And this was a kind of guy, like William of Orange was a very taciturn guy, very dour and hold it all in, don't show your emotions. And when she died, when Mary, his wife, died, the thing first, when she had smallpox, William risked his own life and health to nurse her, even though everyone told him not to do it because they were afraid they both would die, king and queen, both at once. And so he risked everything to stay by her bedside and nurse her, and he won't leave her. And then when she finally dies, he cries out and he faints and he starts weeping, and everyone is shocked to pieces. And someone had said at the time, like, "Oh my God, marble weeps." And so but this is very much tying into how Burgoyne was as a character. No, not like that, actually. His personality was completely different than that. But the point is, he was very the opposite. He was very extrovert, very gregarious, very outgoing,
have no feelings.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
I can't let you get away with this. You keep going back to this concept that Englishmen can feel.
Yeah, Englishmen cannot feel. Aristocrats especially cannot feel. They are not human, Leah. They are robots. They do not have emotion.
And all aristocrats are filthy rich jerks.
Of course, yes. All rich. Oh my gosh. Well, that just brings up an. No, I just have to mention that. Yeah, I had when I shared a poem that I had written about Lord George Augustus Howe. who was killed during the French and Indian War. The poem talks about how he was beloved by people on both sides of the Atlantic. He was really kind of this figure of unity for the British in Britain and the British Americans, and he was, they said he was beloved and feared, revered by all those who considered themselves British. And then I post this poem talking about it and how he died very suddenly. He was shot almost directly in the heart, so it was a very quick, sudden death, which shocked people because of how very lively this guy was. He was very, very animated character. So I share this poem, and this one guy on a group responds, "Well, nobles weren't like this. This is just an idealization. They weren't like this. Lords weren't thought of well by people. They were just fat cats, and you're romanticizing death. Getting shot and coughing up blood in slow agony is not romantic."
Yeah. See, this is Andre, kicking on the noose. And B,
yes.
B, all nobles are the same. Nobles aren't like this. Lords aren't like this. And it's like, obviously, they're all exact cookie cutter cutouts of each other. And
they're born into the world, and they have noble written on their forehead, and that defines them overall, their overarching characteristics. And so, and apparently, everyone who's shot is shot in the lung. Yeah,
every single person who's ever been shot. Especially if they're nobles.
Especially for nobles.
It is a special punishment for nobles. Yeah.
Here we go. All nobles are rotten, and they cough up blood when they die in slow, torturous agony. There are no quick deaths for nobles, and everyone hates them and spits on their grave.
Yeah, that is consistent with the historical record, yes.
It absolutely is. This is research, Leo. This is the research we learned.
It's kind of like how guards are all the same, So there are categories of people in life, and you can't escape yours. So I before I jump into that, I do want to clarify my Andre kicking at the gallows comment. Poor Major John André, whom we call Sparkles. He was trying very, very hard, petitioning Washington, and by that I don't mean the Capitol, I mean General Washington. Petitioning Washington. I'm just realizing to this day we're still petitioning Washington.
We really are. It's never ended.
But petitioning Washington, petitioning just absolutely anybody, not to hang him. He had given up on trying not to get executed, and he had just said, as we've discussed, Andre hated hanging.
He really did.
It horrified him, mortified him. So he was trying not to get hanged, and to the very last moment, he didn't know he was getting hanged because Washington just straight up hadn't written him back. He hadn't heard anything about it. So
he ghosted him.
He did. He ghosted him, and Andre was, I guess, maintaining faith in humanity because he thought, well, surely, if I haven't heard from him, he's not going to hang me, right? But no, that was absolutely wrong. He was going to hang him, and so Andre comes out. He doesn't know he's getting hanged. He sees the gallows. He has a horrible panic attack. Some jerk from the execution court says, "Why this sudden emotion?" And Andre pulls himself together, goes up, puts the noose around his own neck, says, what is the line?
Blindfold over his own eyes, too.
What's that? Oh, yeah, puts the blindfold over his own eyes, goes into, like, total hero mode for a second. And what is it? He says it will be but a momentary twang, something like that?
So when he was having so he had a momentary panic attack when he sees the scaffold, because he has hanging fears. This is his thing. Right. So he's trying to, because there's good reason to have hanging fears, and I'm sure he saw people hanged before as part of the work officers would turn out to see executions. You've seen how bad it can be.
Yeah.
So he is thinking, okay, this could either be quick, as in you break your neck, or it can be super slow, like ranging anywhere between 8 and 15 minutes sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Some really bad cases. I think the longest case was like a half hour, and that was rare. But usually it was between 8 and 15 minutes. But the point is, it was terrible. It would be a horrible way to go, where you're just, slow motion, strangulating and kicking and jerking about and losing control of your body. And it is awful, awful way to go. So then he is, hanged. And as he said, it is indeed a momentary pang. His neck snaps.
His neck snaps immediately.
Which was very fortuitous for him, because it really could have been the long route out. But his neck snapped. And so some people commenting on it at the time even said, like, it was almost a little bit of a nod to his, well, again, like, innocence in a way. Let's put it that way. I mean, even though, yes, technically, I mean, not 100% innocence if you go by letter of the law, but like innocence in the sense of he got done a raw deal. Put it that way.
Well, we'll do a podcast on.
We'll do a whole podcast on that.
It's a whole story with Benedict Arnold, who is the real villain of the universe. Villain of the tale.
Yeah, and many tales, in fact. So that was the point we were roping all around to. You had said he's kicking around in the hangman.
Hanging. Yeah, for some reason, everyone's obsessed with this idea that they can't tell this story straight.
No.
And I don't know if they just want the Patriots to come off as more righteous, or if they just think it's more dramatic, or what.
Maybe.
But one of the things that they can't seem to get straight about this story is the fact that André just dies.
Yeah, he's dead in a second.
And so every single media presentation of this, a lot of the things in the novels that we're talking about as well, or not talking about, depending on the case, a lot of these novels that have André in them that show his death have him have a very long, excruciating death where he's kicking around and slowly being strangled. And that's just not what happened.
No, and it's pretty awful, too, because it's like, didn't he go through enough? Like, this is not necessary.
Well, in a lot of these books he didn't. A lot of the books he didn't have a panic attack. In a lot of the books he wasn't trying so hard not to get hanged. In a lot of the books he didn't get such a raw deal with this thing with Arnold. And a lot of and that is what one of the things we see with a lot of these presentations is they try to make it seem like the people they decide are the villains, in this case André, really had it coming to them, whatever misfortune arrives eventually. And so a lot of the time André doesn't have a lot of the problems that he had in reality, because he sort of has to live a different lifestyle in order to justify his killing at the end of the book. So, I'm going to be honest, I've lost track of where the heck we were.
So we should just finish where we were.
I think, is the guy still just tied up at Burgoyne's place without water?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think he's had some time to dehydrate by now. So then what happens?
So then, so Burgoyne is going into a sadistic fit, and he's tied up, and they're dehydrating him. Mm-hmm. Burgoyne's other, French-Canadian mistress sneaks him some water that keeps him alive a bit. And, Spy Chick has gone off and contacted his Mohawk relatives, and then they come in and they rescue him off screen. Because
that was it. It was off. No wonder we couldn't remember what happened. I just remembered it was really lame and made no sense. But yeah, it was off screen. That's what it was.
It was indeed an off-screen rescue. And then they just fast forwarded in time and talked about how, they went off together, and she became a big theater actress. And, he was like her kind of sugar daddy, and they lived all happily ever after.
Well, nobody wants to see that anyway. Nobody wants to see a rescue mission. I mean, who would want that?
And then them just living weirdly happily ever after for the next 50 years or something.
Actually, that's a fair thought for how to conclude your novel. Since you're having trouble finishing these last 4 chapters, have you considered just not and just kind of writing in that this happened off screen?
The cheat method. The cheat method, also tempting, so tempting. Oh no.
I was actually working on a chapter of the Goodfellas novel earlier today, where I was trying to finish the chapter where they're at the races, with Freitag towards the beginning of the book, and I've had the announcer, the loudspeaker, kick in several times now, and I got to it kicking in again, and I just thought, you know what? I'm not writing this dialogue.
Oh, Lord.
And I just started informing the audience of what the loudspeaker was saying.
Well,
it talked about this and this,
I might end up doing that with some of this, to be honest. Like, I don't want to do it too much, but like for some things, like I think it might almost be necessary to try to finish.
Yeah. I also think that sometimes it's just better that way in terms of the flow of the book, because I like to have the actual flavor of conversations that are going on, but there are some times when it's really not necessary.
No, it's the show don't tell thing gone wrong. We have a whole episode about this.
We're going to. Yeah. Tune into that episode to find out more about whatever Avellina's about to say.
Yeah, oh Lord, no, just like the idea of like showing and don't telling, really that doesn't mean what everyone thinks it means. It's like there's things where you do not need to create whole characters and dialogue for things you could just cover with a narrator sometiing.
Yeah.
There's things that can just be covered with a narrator.
and that's okay. Telling through dialogue is not actually less telling than telling through a narration.
Exactly. It's not.
It's actually the same. It's just a flavor.
It's
really.
Just a flavor.
Yeah, it's flavor and sometimes it's length too. Like if that's not the main focus of the chapter or what's going on in the novel and the components immediately around it, I think sometimes it's better just to sort of narrate and then just sort of let the conversation or flow or whatever the heck was happening, the focus remain where it was.
Right.
And get the information across instead of just, actually breaking in. At this point in that chapter, everybody knows that there's that, the loudspeaker comes on and, gives you racing updates. I don't have to.
Exactly. You don't have to do it each time.
Right. The guy, doing his announcer thing every time. So.
But yeah, I think so. I think to wrap up this whole saga. So now we should discuss the interview. So this was all of this was to say.
Oh yes, with the author. Yeah, what goes through people's heads?
That was at the back of the book. So this is the thing. So after these terrible books, where nothing makes any sense and historical accuracy is fed to the swine. We get her interview at the back of the book in which she insists upon her high levels of research. Research is her guiding light of life. Research. And this is why she says she depicted Burgoyne the way she did and why she depicted André the way she did. Because of research. And she says
yeah, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, they know that she's right, and this is what the historical record shows, and this is what her research obviously turned out, because we have, listed in detail that, how right she was about this.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just it's self-reinforced. But, she tries to explain her reasoning. So with Burgoyne, she just flat out is like, I don't like him. I was like, okay. So she decided she did not like him because, he certainly was a party man. Mm-hmm. So but the weird part of this is this is an author who has not, in the course of her stories, demonstrated any high morality in terms of sex and no.
Yeah, no, there's not a single character who is a paradigm of virtue in this.
no, nor are they even likable. Okay, they're not even likable.
There's good people. General Fraser never appears as the only moral man in the British Army.
He does not.
There is no Martin Edelman to save us.
There is nothing nothing is relatable in this in a positive way.
No.
All of the characters are awful in one way or another. They're all blackmailing each other, backstabbing each other.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
None of this is even relatable in a negative way.
No, actually,
it's just
you're right.
all kind of off the wall.
It's just all off the wall. There's nothing to graft onto in these sagas. Did I ever mention that the first spy chick, she gets like picked up by General Washington and she becomes like a super Washington fangirl?
Oh, that's right. Doesn't she go around doing like plays for the troops?
Yes, she does. And she likes him. She decides that she likes him better than Burgoyne. Like, this was her big philosophy of life, because he listened to her play ideas better, which doesn't honestly make a lot of sense to me, because Burgoyne was definitely more the ones who would listen to play ideas more. This was his life. He loved theater, and
Sorry, yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure about. I think Washington would have gone to plays and things. I don't think he was like, a cultural Philistine or anything, but I don't think he was nearly as much into it as Burgoyne.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to argue that. I was just thinking, well, I'm wondering now if this author was just sort of trying to lean too hard into the Phyllis Wheatley thing, where Phyllis Wheatley really loved Washington and he invited her to come read her poetry to him.
That vibes a lot.
Yeah. Because that would explain the research angle.
That vibes. Female author gets crushed on Washington.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that works. Why they decided to have Burgoyne, okay. The thing is, I mean, as I mentioned, I feel like Burgoyne just constantly gets a bad rep. Yeah.
The guy who writes rom-coms.
Well, that's the thing. The guy who writes rom-coms. Yeah, the thing is, he writes rom-coms. He writes poetry. We've heard a sampling of that.
Yep.
He writes a lot of actually nice, fluffy things. And you get this feeling of he's a guy with a lot of heart. I mean, there was just stuff. He wrote a lot of kind of even lines. There are a lot of warm, fluffy things. He had a warm, fluffy side to him that was very real. He could also be quite. He could be the heavy too. He could be authoritarian in order to get things done. But he still had this very nice side to him, which is quite endearing, I suppose. And but another side, this is more of the deeper element that shows he's a thinker. He actually, at one point, I don't have the quote at the tip of my tongue or my fingers right now, but he effectively said something. Wait, let me actually look if I can find where I paraphrased it. I didn't quote it directly in my story, but I sort of paraphrased it at one point. Again, this is not the exact quote, but it's a paraphrase. So that's the point of theater in the end. We are appealing to beauty, sense, and truth. It must represent nature on some level, the sort that makes man what he is. So that's a paraphrase, an imperfect paraphrase of the quote that he made about storytelling and writing and theater. That even, I think he said something to the effect that even the lightest fare, I think I quoted some more of it somewhere else, but basically the point is even comedies, even romantic comedies, very light stuff, are supposed to in some way have a moral, have a meaning, and they're supposed to reflect beauty, sense, and truth. That was the way he described it. It shows a deeper thinker, to be honest. He's not just a surface level thinker. He's thinking on a level of what makes art, which I relate to a ton. I mean, I found it actually interesting how when researching, I sometimes relate to Burgoyne. Yeah. So the point being that her limiting him to being just this sort of guy who chases chicks, and that's it. And then twisting other elements out of shape, like, for example, him being some kind of weird sadist or something, or him not caring about his wife, when in reality, if anyone ever came to him when his wife was ill like that and said, I'm going to blackmail you with revealing on your wife, I mean, Burgoyne would have absolutely flipped out, because Burgoyne had a temper when pushed. There's no way if anybody near threatened to upset Charlotte at a time like that. So,
Right.
you know, there was that was just off. But, you know, she basically decides she does not like Burgoyne because he is a womanizer, but she has all of her other characters be womanizers.
Yeah.
So it's very unfair, really, and she's cutting out all of his better attributes and the nuances and the layers, but she's still claiming she's doing it based on research.
Right.
She's like, I did research on him, I decided I didn't like him, so this is how I depicted him.
I feel like that's kind of, delivering on what she said. It's like, I did research on him, I don't like him, therefore he's the bad guy now.
Exactly. It's not like actually trying to be honest about what the characters were like. It's simply about deciding who fits into these templates.
Yeah.
That's, I think, how these authors work. They have certain character templates, and they just decide who's going to be in the template. And then with André, she decided it based off of a story. This was her research. You know the story, so I'm going to let you tell us too.
Well, just before we get into this thing with André, I wanted to mention, you had mentioned about Burgoyne kind of having a temper when he was pushed, and you kind of show that in your novel. I'm particularly thinking of the scene with the sniper kid when he starts shooting up the camp. Yeah,
it's definitely a number of scenes. I try to show that, like, Burgoyne wasn't like a rageaholic or anything. He wasn't the type to fly off the handle a lot. But if you push him enough, and if he also feels protective over either A, his reputation, or B, people that he loves, then he will react. It's people that he cares about, whether it be his family or his friends or his staff workers. So you can indeed find, Burgoyne being angry. He's not merely kind of frivolous emotions. You can write out wrath at certain points, and it's not really, really common, but it can be there. And you're right, in that one scene, the sequence is when he is confronted with the fact that a sniper made it into his immediate camp, so the general's camp, and opened fire on his staff and killed one of his staff members, one of the guards, and a horse. And was trying to get close enough to Burgoyne to kill him. So, this is when he does indeed give in to fury.
Perfect, thanks. But you mentioned about André and this lady.
Her research, yes. So
yes, her research that resulted in evil André, who locks people in ice boxes, needs to be blackmailed, etc.
Yeah.
So the story that she based this on was, André suspected a lady of spying because she was.
She was.
Have you noticed that André's good at his job?
Yeah, he's good at his job. Usually, except when you ask him to be the spy.
Yeah.
See, he's good at, this is the key. He's good at figuring out when other people are spies, and he's good at processing information and sending out his little birds to collect it. He's not good at actually being the spy. That's another thing.
And by that, we don't mean chasing people down long alleyways in the dark with smoke and fog. We mean sneaking around and not getting caught by people.
Yes.
As we mentioned earlier, actual spy work.
Yeah, he's not good at not getting caught by people.
So, poor André is he's figured out this lady's a spy. He lived
in her house. He was stationed in their house.
Yeah, he was stationed in these people's house. Which we had the quartering laws at the time, and so that was perfectly legal. But
it was.
André was at this lady's house. Huh?
Commandeer.
yeah, it was commandeered. So André's at this lady's house. This lady's spying on them. The people at her house. And he figures this out. He sits her down and starts, interrogating her. It's André, so it was probably a very friendly interrogation.
Yes.
And so he's interrogating her and, talks to her. You spying? I think you're spying. No, sir, I'm not spying. Why would you think that? Are you sure you're not spying? I was pretty sure you were spying. Oh, no, I would never. So, she says she's not spying, and he doesn't have any actual evidence that she is, so he just lets her go.
Yeah.
That was the end of it. But because of that, André became an evil villain who locked a lady in an ice house after drugging her drink, because
I don't even know how the woman got.
That's reality. That's the interpretation.
That was the interpretation. I don't know how she got from point A to point B. I really don't. Like,
it was marsh level gymnastics.
It was, yeah.
It was.
Oh, you have to.
No, sometime in the future, we're going to have an episode on I guess bad takes. Is that what we decided it was going to be?
Bad takes.
Yeah, we're going to have a bad takes episode, and I am going to rage on Marsh for a good period of time because I get really, really, really irritated.
Oh, yeah. I get irritated by osmosis, you just telling me about Marsh. So.
Yeah, it's upsetting. I own his book on audiobook, and I've listened to it once, and it's the only book that's ever made me throw up. But it literally made me ill. It physically ill. It literally made me physically ill listening to this book.
I have definitely had that experience recently.
Yes, you did. I forgot about that. Yeah, Avellina has now joined me, actually, because of, I think, fairly similar content.
Yeah.
Because it was just the bad take to begin with, and then the fact that there's this weird sort of like sexual-ish content dealing with it too.
Oh,
and
Lord.
So yeah, but it was funny because I think there are 14 chapters of the book. And I think, if I recall correctly, the book starts to fall apart around chapter 8. And I think I was on chapter 10 when I threw up. And I had gotten through those first 9 chapters in, I think, 4 days. And they're long chapters because it's a nonfiction in quotes biography, so they're very long. This is sort of a long thing, but I got through 9 of them in 4 days, and then I think I had to wait 3 weeks to finish the book because I just couldn't deal with the thought of turning it on.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at with that one production that I have, like, gosh. Oh yeah, it's the one with the diver lady who takes on an alternate identity of, she ends up as like an aristocrat in New York City after her abusive stepfather like chases her off, and now she's a spy. But yeah, I'm like afraid to go back to that.
Yeah, that's. See, you noticed that there's another lady who's become a spy.
Yeah, they were all becoming, and they become spies for the weirdest reasons too. Like, I love how they become spies simply because, like, they're trying to make some statement about their
femininity.
Yeah, apparently.
A strong. Oh, this is. I want to mention this while we're here. On strong, independent women and spying. Right. So every time I hear strong, independent women and spying, I immediately think of Hans's wife, Christel.
Yes.
Which, we've had conversations about this, so you understand.
I do, yes.
And sort of, that's my standard. And just the fact that all of these characters have nothing to do with that.
Yeah, they don't know. Well, because they don't seem to even have a clear cause. Like, it's almost like that's the thing. It's like, okay, so in reality, spying. Well, first of all, let's be honest. Majority of spying historically was for money.
Yeah, they were drowning in greed.
They were freelancers essentially. See, I like to see them as freelancers.
Oh, okay,
they were freelancers. Yeah, there we go. I like to see them as freelancers who were trying to do a gig. And that was, stuff that was happening. Now they could either do a gig for one side or another. Now sometimes that would be based on actual persuasion. Mm-hmm. Like, in other words, I actually believe in this cause over here. Yeah. Or it really could just be for the money.
Yeah, who was paying more?
Exactly. Or it could be based on who, like, for example, would protect their family better or their interests better.
Right. Or
so
even,
there was
I imagine it could have even just been something like who their particular social circle made it easier to spy on.
Well, there you go. Because again, this is a freelancing operation. So I mean, to a great extent, it is freelancing. And that's that. So the point being that I think when we over romanticize spies, we forget these things. They are essentially, a lot of them were. Now, you do have some more, I guess, kind of heroic spies who really are doing it for the cause in a more, overt way. I mean, I would say, even though Nathan Hale was not exactly the brightest bulb in terms of his volunteering effort, you got to give him creds for courage and for really believing in the cause. So, even though he didn't know what he was doing, he clearly wanted to do something to aid the cause, and it certainly wasn't a mercenary thing for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that there's that kind of thing where it's like he legitimately was doing it for the cause.
Yeah.
But there's lots of, and this is the problem I have with over aggrandizing this kind of thing, though. There's loads of people who were not Hale.
Yes, lots of people were not Nathan Hale.
Oh yeah, lots of people didn't even know Nathan Hale.
Yes, lots of people were not Nathan Hale. Lots of people didn't know Nathan Hale. Lots of people were not involved in the hanging of Nathan Hale because they were in prison transports in a different state.
Yeah, but I don't think that matters to the jerk-face character who asks people why they're having emotional breakdowns.
Which university did Hale attend?
Hang on, let's find out.
Because I said Yale earlier, and now I'm thinking it was Harvard, and I might have lied to everyone.
Let's see. Hale joined the Connecticut. No, Nathan Hale University. They're going to give me a university named after Nathan Hale.
They are indeed.
Okay, let's find something else.
I can't Google because
Harvard.
It is Harvard? Okay, good. I did lie to you all. You're welcome. But I corrected it. I figured it was weird because I was thinking this. I had this
Harvard
thought.
Hale. Wait, hold on. Wait. This is confusing.
Oh.
Hold on. Listen to this. This is confusing to me.
Yeah.
Harvard's Hale, a Tory linked to betrayal of his Yale cousin. This is so confusing. Okay, let's pull this
I'm
up.
sorry. So wait, Nathan Hale did go to Yale, and I did not lie to people earlier. I lied to them now, but apparently his cousin by the same name did go to Harvard, but he was instrumental in his betrayal.
Yes, let's double check.
That is awesome. This is what you all tune in for, is this kind of insane history you didn't know about. This is research.
Okay. This is real research, folks. All right, so Nathan, a graduate of Yale, 1773. So he's a Yale guy, but he had a cousin from Harvard who may have been linked to his betrayal.
There you go.
So he saw him in New York and said, "That be my cousin, the rebel guy." What is he doing here?
To be a Tory.
Yeah, exactly. He's pretending to be a Tory school teacher. Yeah.
Oh, so. I like to think now that his cousin went up to him. And this actually, I like this idea. His cousin goes up to him on the street, says, "Nathan, what are you doing here?" Nathan's like, "I'm going to this Tory bar." He's like, "What are you doing going to the Tory bar, man? You're a patriot." And Nathan says, "I know, I'm a spy."
Oh, no.
And that's the point at which he gets arrested.
Yeah, well, you see, this does bring to mind, I feel like I have to reference now the horrible sequel. The horrible serial in brief. So there, well, actually, you can actually, you know the story too. I want to balance off.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to prevent Avellina from giving you every detail about this serial, and just inform you that there is, in fact, a Revolutionary War serial that's kind of comical. It's from the viewpoint of a British soldier coming over to America. He wants to squash all of the Americans like beetles very, very badly. Has a breakdown because someone writes modern Modern swear words on a wall. Epithets. There you go. Modern epithets on a wall. And at one point, Nathan Hale is involved in this serial with General Howe. General Howe has him arrested, brings him in, says, "Man, what were you doing?" Nathan Hale looks at him and says, "I'm a spy." To which Howe replies, to the delight of Avellina and myself, "No, you, sir, are an idiot." Best line. Absolute best.
"You, sir, are an idiot. Hang him."
Hang him. Yes. "What are you doing here?" "I'm a spy." "No, you, sir, are an idiot. Hang him." Same vibe as in Agent of Grace when Ruder is coming out of what is supposed to be Hans's house, but actually has nothing to do with where Hans's house was at the time. And
research
is coming out of Hans's house. And Hans is coming back from hiding his files at Zossen. And, this scene has nothing to do with reality. Ignore the complaint I just made and understand that it's to everything. Ruder's coming out of Hans's house in the movie. And Hans is getting back from hiding files at Zossen in the movie. And Ruder's there with a couple of other guys. They have Christel in handcuffs. And they're coming down the stairs. Hans, very angrily, says, "What are you doing? Let my wife go immediately. Right now." To which Ruder looks at him, looks mildly perplexed, touches his hat, and says, "No." And then turns to his guys and says, "Arrest this man." And then they do.
And all of this has become, hashtags for us.
It has the entire scene, because I love that scene. I think it's the best scene in the movie.
It definitely is.
It's fantastic. It has nothing to do with reality, except with the possible exception of, actually, the exception of Hans being really, really upset about Christel being in handcuffs.
Yes.
And saying, "Let her go immediately right now," which is pretty much just reality.
Yeah. Immediately! Right now!
Yeah. No, I mean, Hans in real life, when he found out Christel was also imprisoned, had like a complete breakdown and was trying so hard to beg her out. It was just touching, but in reality, he didn't know she was arrested until like a week after the fact. So.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I feel like also the movie actors in that scene were literally not acting like humans. Their delivery was.
But I mean, the whole movie, the actors weren't acting like humans. I think it was the script.
It was, yeah. I don't think the actors could have done much to save this.
But that particular scene, I love that scene because I think it's hilarious.
It an award.
It is so funny.
It's become a gift too.
But yeah, in reality, if you read through Hans's letters from the first week he was in prison before he knew that Christel had been arrested, his letters to her are just I mean, it's so sad. It's just so sad.
Well, I mean, fortunate she made it out really in the end.
Yeah, no, that awesome, really some
the silver lining,
divine intervention there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Back to the serial.
Right, the serial. Oh, right.
Yes. Howe just says, "No, you, sir, are an idiot. Hang him." And then that's what happens. So then the story goes on, and eventually everyone dies.
Except the chick that everyone was fighting over, the prostitute.
Oh, chick. Yeah, everyone was fighting over a prostitute, and she lives.
She does. Yeah, she becomes rich.
But everyone else dies somewhat inexplicably. They're like on a battlefield, and then they just kind of die.
Yeah, Yorktown happens and they all die. They can't outlive the war, apparently. The author didn't know what to do with them. It was really weird. The whole series was weird. And it was like too long. It was like 40 chapters or something. I'm just like, please, there's not enough story here. There really isn't. We will reconvene. Oh my, as I was looking up, I was trying, that's just wild. So I was looking up Oak Apple Day, which it is today by weird coincidence. So for all of the really, really niche Anglophiles out there, Apple Day is the anniversary of the restoration of the monarchy
Oh.
under Charles II after the English Civil War.
Ooh.
So today is Oak Apple Day, and part of the reason for that is that Charles II, when he was a prince, was hidden in an oak tree, an oak apple tree.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like a blended tree.
Is it the
in
same one
order.
where Nathan Hale was hanged?
Well, this is the funny part. When I typed in Oak Apple Day, because I wanted to share something about it on my timeline, I was multitasking.
How
What
dare
should
you?
pop up but Nathan Hale?
Wow.
Yeah. So apparently Nathan Hale has taken over Oak Apple Day.
He's slowly
It's a
taking
thing.
over everything.
He is, because there's, I mean,
And
Nathan
that's the
Hale
spirit
is
of Hang 'em
everywhere.
Tide. Yeah.
That is the spirit of Hang 'em Tide. He's everywhere, and everyone should know about him. If they don't know about him,
Hang 'em.
hang him. Yeah, that's the only legitimate answer to the problem.
It is.
It's the question of evil. So you know, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
Yeah, and I want it on the record that I love Nathan Hale.
Yes, I've grown fond of Nathan Hale.
Yes, Avellina is the the spirit of England, and and I'm actually American, so.
Well, I'm just like reincarnated loyalist American.
Yeah. Well, my problem is that I'm John Adams, right?
So you're John Adams.
I don't understand why we called the king a tyrant. I know that the Boston Massacre was in fact not a massacre.
See, so you're the balanced. You're the balanced You're the balanced middle way patriot.
Yeah, but I'm still the one who instigates the Declaration of Independence getting written.
Right. So, there we go. Well, we'll wait to actually read your John Adams saga.
Oh my.
Since your dedication knows no bounds.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have great news. Fellowship in Fairydust is releasing a. What is it called? American Heritage?
Did we name it? What did we name it?
I don't remember.
Did we ever come up with a name, or was
I don't think we did. I think we called it Early America, but I think that's a lame title.
Was it crashed?
Yeah.
Everything.
So I was going to call it The Spirit of America, so I'm going to do that. We're releasing a new magazine, The Spirit of America.
Spirit to America. There we go. I found the Latin for this.
Oh.
Spirit to America.
Okay, so we're releasing a new magazine, Spirit to America. It's only a year late. And
because of a crash, to be fair.
Yeah. We've had various problems. We're obviously getting things off the ground again, as you can tell by us doing a new podcast and uploading on the YouTube channel.
The mere fact that we exist and are talking.
Yeah. This proof to you that theoretically we exist somewhere.
Exactly. We exist. It matters.
We are not disembodied spirits. We are in fact men.
There we go.
And so, but yes, so Spiritus Americae, and that we're, like Avellina said, Jamestown to the War of 1812. I'm ignoring all of that, and
you're jumping forward in time.
Hopefully, by the point at which you are hearing my voice, we'll have written a short story addressing the death of John Adams and his recollections on
having flashbacks, so that's something. I mean, he's
on the jubilee of the passing of the Declaration of Independence.
There we go.
Independence forever, and we'll see you next time.